What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the Galaxy S series for going into 2023. I'm going to be talking about all the essential things you need to know. If you guys want to see a video on these phones individually, type in Matthews Tech, and then any phone you type in, you'll see a dedicated video and comparisons on it. Be sure to hit the subscribe button also, guys. And let's go ahead and get started here. So I get this question a lot. I want a Galaxy S series phone. I want either, the newer ones or an older flagship. So we have the S9 Plus, the S10 Plus, the S20 Ultra, and the S21 Ultra, and the S22 Ultra here. So which phone out of all of these phones is the best right now? Like, if I had to choose out of all of these phones for the best price to spec ratio, I would 100,000% get a Galaxy S21 Ultra. For somebody like me, that's kind of like, we stick to a budget on here, right? So this is kind of like a budget channel. We like to find deals. This is the best deal pretty much that you can get out of almost any phone right now. Price to spec ratio, if we go ahead and type in Galaxy S21 Ultra, this is a renewed refurbished version. I buy renewed refurbished phones pretty much, like I would say 80% of the phones on this channel are renewed refurbished. This phone you can pick up for around $450 to $480 depending on who you get it from. But I picked this up for around $450. And it's literally the best phone that you can pick up right now as far as the specs go. It's absolutely nuts because the screen on here, one, is absolutely beautiful. One thing I like about this screen is that it's just as good as the new S22 Ultra, but it doesn't have that boxy feel when you hold it in the hand. So for people like me with smaller hands, I typically like the phones that are shaped like this because they're easier to hold. You also might like that the screen on here curves, doesn't curve as dramatic as the S22 Ultra as well. And again, that's personal preference there. But yeah, so I absolutely love the screen on here. It's 120 hertz, it's 1440p, it's beautiful panel on here. And like I said, it's extremely cheap, right? So the S22 Ultra, let's say if you wanted the best of the best, S22 Ultra is still going to cost you around $1,000. But you're getting pretty much everything you would get with this phone. Even when it comes down to camera quality wise, this phone is still extremely close in terms of quality with the S22 Ultra. The only thing that it's missing is built-in stylus support. But even with this phone, you still get stylus support. So I think that's extremely cool. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor is awesome on this phone. I'll show you guys the Geekbench scores and all that stuff. But yeah, I would definitely buy this phone. The design is extremely cool on here. I think it's one of Samsung's best design. The camera cutout on here and the matte finish and just how it feels in your hands is just extremely cool and extremely comfortable for me. So let's go ahead and just do a run through of these devices. So we have the S9 Plus. Let's talk about this phone, right? It's an older phone. You can find this for 120 bucks. Probably cheaper than that, probably like 100 bucks. I really like this phone. Would I buy this phone? Personally, not really. Samsung, I believe this year is the last year for security patches, so it's not even going to be getting security patches anymore. You can still use it, of course. I've been, using it, playing games on it, all that good stuff. You can still use it, but you're not going to get security patches. So I would skip out on the S9 Plus, and I would definitely get a S10 Plus. If you are thinking about getting, a S9 Plus, just save up the money and get an S10 Plus. The S10 Plus is actually pretty close in price. You can pick these up for like $240. They're very cheap as well too, and they're just overall better. The S10 Plus has a better chip, the 855 versus the 845. This will play games at high settings, and we'll get into that. It'll play games better. The SD card support is still here. The headphone jack is still here on this phone. So anybody that's considering an S9 Plus, guys, I would really consider saving your money and just spend a little bit more. Get the S10 Plus. It'll have better cameras, more cameras, a better screen on here. It's just a much better device in terms of power. And also it'll be getting, this phone had Android 12, right? And that's the last major OS update, but it also will get around 3 years of security patches. So you can still use this phone, get security patches for the next 3 years, and you'll be perfectly fine here. So I want to talk about the S20 Plus. I just got this phone recently, and it's been maybe a week or so. I really enjoy this phone. Surprisingly, it's the best gaming phone here. So out of all of these phones, this phone gets the best settings. The only phone here that plays PUBG at 90 frames, which I'll show you. And yeah, it's incredible. So obviously the headphone jack is going here, but this phone still has SD card support. The S21 Ultra and the S22 Ultra does not. So if you want something that's a little bit more modern, with a high refresh rate, because these two phones do not have it, you want something with a high refresh rate, plays excellent with game. I'm talking about this thing plays games and does not really even heat up like that. It's really awesome. It plays at a high settings. Check out the gaming test. Screen is beautiful. Even though you can't use 120 hertz and 1440p, it's still a beautiful display. The design actually is kind of boring on the S20 Ultra. It's not the most exciting design out of all of these phones. But yeah. But I still really like this phone, and it's actually pretty cheap. You could find it for the $350 price range as well too. I think it's absolutely a great deal. And like I said, it still has SD card support, extremely powerful chip on here, the Snapdragon 865 chip as well. And actually, let's go ahead and just pull up those chip scores here so you guys can see just the progression in the processors. So you can see this is all these are Snapdragon phones, guys. Snapdragon 845, 855. This is the 865. You guys see that the sort of leap in power here. And that's not right. There we go. 8888. And then we have the HN1. I think that's not right. Samsung, the Geekbench scores are always weird. But yeah, these are probably the most accurate scores here. You guys can see that big score jump. I can't talk. You guys can see the progression with the scores here. And that translates to gaming, because I always get asked about gaming. So let's go ahead and launch PUBG here. All right, so we got PUBG running on all of these phones. And like I said, guys, the S20 Ultra, check this out. Able to run at 90 frames. We just can't get that setting on the, on any of these phones. Just no 90 frames. S9 Plus. You guys would be surprised. The S9 Plus actually still is able to play games. Obviously not as good as these phones, but it actually still is decently plays games. It's not like it's lagging all over the place. Yeah, so all these phones are able to play HDR Extreme, and the S20 is just going to do better. It's just way smoother in terms of performance. And I find that this phone, when it comes to just playing games in general for a long period of time, this 865 chip does not heat up as like this 8 Gen AAA processor and the 8 Gen 1. It's just way cooler experience by far. The 855 is extremely efficient as well too with the S10 Plus. So it's also very good for gaming. And like I said, for cheap. This is why I don't recommend mid-range phones, especially for people who come to me and say, Matt, I want a game. I want a game, but I don't want to. You don't need to spend $400, $500 on a mid-range phone. You literally can get an older flagship phone. You get HDR Extreme settings. Like I said, look at a Galaxy A53. Look at the settings that you would get on an A53 and compare it to this. It's not even close. The performance is just going to be way better on, the S10 Plus and the S20 Ultra. It's not even a competition. So if you're somebody that's gaming, man, you can pick these phones up, just play games. It's awesome. Even the S9 Plus still does a pretty good job. I think this phone is able to do Smooth Extreme, HDR Ultra. Yeah, so not quite, HDR Extreme, but it still plays pretty decently. So yeah, the newer phones, obviously they're going to do well with game. It's just that they get hotter than the older phones. I noticed that the sweet spot is really the 865 and the 855. These phones game at good settings, but they don't get hot. Let's look at the display progression here. So as you guys can see, the design language, you can see Samsung actually did not, when a lot of phones were having notches, they said they're not putting notches on it. So you can see Samsung waited and just got a little thick bezel right there, but it still is better than having that big chunky notch that they used to have back in the day. But you can see Samsung waited to put punch holes in their phones here. And it looks, these screens are I'm telling you, Samsung makes some of the best screens, man. Just looking at these screens, they look so good. Even the S9 Plus compared to the newest S22 Ultra. It's the S9 Plus still sharp. It's still 1440p. It's still high resolution. These are beautiful screens, and you can see phones actually getting bigger. Remember, these are all plus size phones. So look how big phones have gotten, over time. But beautiful screens here. If you're somebody that loves screens, I would definitely consider the S21 Ultra and the S22 Ultra. They have the brightest screens, right, in direct sunlight. Also, they do 1440p with 120 hertz. So unlike the S20 Ultra, it's only 1080p, 120 hertz. The S10 Plus, like I said, S10 Plus, S9 Plus, great screens. They just lack the 120 hertz and stuff like that. But if you don't care about that, these are still beautiful screens to look at, watch Netflix on. They're all HDR10 Plus. They're all dynamic AMOLED displays. They all look beautiful. But yeah, as you guys can see just the beautiful screens, the design language here. Samsung has always been extremely good at making displays here, so definitely that's something that I really love. All right, so there is something that you need to know, and I want to talk about these software updates. This is very important. Like I said, S9 Plus is pretty much done for. It's not really getting any more security patches. The S10 Plus, it will get around 3 years of security patches. The S20 Ultra, it just got Android 13, I believe. So that's the last major OS update, and then it will get 3 years of security patches. I think actually, yeah, 3 years. And then the S21 Ultra and S22 Ultra. So these phones are kind of special because these two phones get 4 major OS updates, and they get 5 years of security patches. So if you do go ahead and get these phones, you really don't have to upgrade or worry about upgrading these phones for a very long time, because they will be supported much longer. So that's also a very awesome thing. And actually, these Samsung phones are actually the most supported or have the longest lifespan now because of that. So 4 major OS updates and 5 years of security patches. All right, so I do want to go ahead and talk about the speakers on these phones here, and let's see if we can notice like a speaker progression here. All right, let's go ahead and check out the speaker progression and see, are these speakers getting better over the years? Actually kind of sound pretty much on par, not that big of a difference. The S20 Ultra is a tad bit louder, but not by much. Much better bass with the S21 Ultra, definitely a little bit louder, but overall the sound clarity is a little bit better as well too. Yeah, definitely better bass. Yeah, just awful. All right, so I went on this rant. I went on this rant before. This is Samsung's worst speakers of all time, I think. And I'm not exaggerating. The bass is terrible. It sounds worse than the S9 Plus. I don't know what happened, but Samsung typically has made great speakers. The speakers in here are terrible. Like just weak bass, not that loud especially for a phone this size. Yeah, the S9 Plus is just louder. So that's absolutely crazy. I would say Samsung's worst speakers is in the S22 Ultra for sure. It's not, I don't even think it's debatable. But yeah, so let's go ahead and move on, guys. Let's talk about cameras. I'm going to give you guys my camera recommendations. This is where the S22 Ultra shines. If you have an older phone, you could literally go with if you just want the best of the best, right? The S22 Ultra literally has one of the best camera systems. It's extremely, it just has so many cameras on it. It's just absolutely nuts. But The S9, S10 Plus, if you guys were thinking, well, maybe I'll just get the S20 Ultra for a camera upgrade, save up the money. I'm telling you, get an S21 Ultra or S22 Ultra. The cameras on these two phones are absolutely phenomenal. We're talking about 108 megapixel lens, extremely detailed photos, crazy zoom, 100 times zoom. These two phones take amazing photos at 30 times zoom. It's absolutely insane how good these phones are. Like, it is really, really crazy. 30 times zoom shots look amazing. 10 times zoom shots look amazing. The S20 Ultra also has a very good zoom capability. It has a really good camera. I just would save up. If I'm a camera person, I'm going to be posting on Instagram and posting on Snapchat, I really would save up that extra money because the video is just better on these two newer phones. And also your stills, the zoom shots are better. So like I said, save up the extra money. Get the S21 Ultra or the S22 Ultra for the camera quality. It is definitely worth it if you're somebody that likes cameras. If you don't really care about cameras, if you're coming from an older phone, you can get the S20 Ultra and be perfectly fine. It still takes amazing shots. But yeah, the S9 Plus and S10 Plus, they actually still take pretty good shots, surprisingly. So, you know, it just doesn't have all the crazy zoom features, and it doesn't have macro. It doesn't shoot in crazy resolutions and stuff like that. But these are very good cameras. It's just that they're not gonna look anywhere near as good as these two newer ones. And like I said, the S22 Ultra, for anybody that wants the built-in stylus, it has a built-in stylus with all of the functionalities that you would get with the built-in stylus. The pen support. The pen support is extremely accurate on here. It's like writing on actual paper. So I'm talking about, I like to use this for like jotting down notes for like a grocery list because I always forget stuff. It feels extremely instant. If you're somebody that's into digital artwork and stuff like that, you will really like this pen. Like I said, it's just awesome, guys. Really, really awesome experience. As far as additional features, so this is pretty interesting. So pretty much all of these phones are capable of doing Samsung desktop support. I think the S9 Plus, does this have desktop support? Can't remember. Yeah, Samsung Dex is on here. Samsung Dex is on all of these phones, secured folders, pretty much software-wise, they have all the same features, so you're not really missing out on too much. I think the S9 Plus, does this have reverse wireless charging? I can't remember. I don't think this does. It might. Can't remember though. I don't see it on here. It might, but I don't think so. But yeah, they pretty much have all the same features, you know, as far as the software goes. And remember, you can use the pen with the S21 Ultra. You just have to buy the case. All right, so I do want to talk about battery life. Now, this is where you don't really see that much of a progression. The S9, I did a battery drain test, actually, you guys can check out. Basically, all of these phones do around 6 hours of screen on time. You might get less battery life on the S10 Plus and S9 Plus simply because they're older phones, so the battery might have degraded a little bit. But typically, these phones aren't going to do crazy good battery life. They just do okay battery life. So typically, you're looking at around 6 hours of screen on time with these phones. So Samsung really, I think for the next phone, they really need to focus on improving battery life with the S series because definitely we need to see some type of upgrade here. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.